The family lawyer accidentally sent me the wrong will, and I discovered my siblings have been stealing from me for decades. I stared at the envelope addressed to Cordelia Blackthorne, clearly meant for someone else. But when I called Hartwell and Associates, they were closed for the holiday. I almost tossed it aside, but something made me open it anyway. The letterhead read, "Last Will and Testament of Margaret Holloway," my grandmother's name. But this wasn't the will we'd read at her funeral 3 years ago. That one left everything equally between me, my brother, and my sister. This one was different, completely different. To my beloved granddaughter, I leave the entirety of my estate, including the lake house, investment portfolio, and trust funds, as she alone showed me genuine love without expectation of inheritance. My hands trembled. According to this document, I was supposed to inherit everything, over $2 million. Instead, I'd received a small jewelry box and been told grandmother had spent most of her money on medical bills. I called my uncle immediately. "That's impossible," he said when I read him excerpts. I was there when the will was read. We all were. But something in his voice sounded strange, careful. The next morning, I drove to Hartwell and Associates. The secretary looked confused when I mentioned Cordelia Blackthorne. "There's no client by that name," she said, checking her computer. "But we did handle Margaret Holloway's estate." Mr. Hartwell himself came out, his face pale when he saw the document in my hands. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "You mailed it to me. Wrong address." He examined the pages, sweat beading on his forehead. This was sealed, court-ordered. How did this get mixed up with court-ordered sealed? Why would a will be sealed?" He wouldn't answer, but I saw him glance toward his files, then back at me. That's when I understood. There were 2 wills. I hired my own attorney that afternoon. Within a week, we discovered the truth. My brother and sister had contested grandmother's original will, claiming she wasn't mentally competent when she wrote it. They'd produced witnesses, medical records, expert testimony, all fabricated. The judge had sealed the original will and probated a fake one they'd created. They'd stolen everything and left me with nothing, believing I'd never find out. But now I had proof. My attorney smiled grimly as we reviewed the evidence. "This is fraud on a massive scale. Criminal fraud. Your siblings are going to prison." I thought about my sister's new house, my brother's expensive car, the lavish vacations they'd been taking while I worked double shifts to pay rent. But as we prepared to file charges, my attorney's phone rang. His face went white as he listened. "We have a problem," he said after hanging up. "Your brother just filed a missing person report. He claims you've been mentally unstable since your grandmother's death and you've disappeared with important family documents." "That's insane. I'm right here." "He's petitioned for emergency guardianship. The hearing is tomorrow morning." My blood ran cold. If my brother became my legal guardian, he could make the evidence disappear. Forever. I had less than 24 hours to prove I wasn't crazy before they could silence me permanently. The panic hit me like a freight train. Everything I discovered, all the evidence of their fraud, it would mean nothing if Trevor succeeded in having me declared incompetent. I'd be locked away somewhere, while they continued living off grandmother's money. "What exactly did he tell the court?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My attorney, David Chen, pulled up the filing on his computer. His jaw tightened as he read. "He claims you've been exhibiting paranoid delusions since your grandmother's death. Says you've been accusing family members of stealing, obsessing over conspiracy theories, and now you've stolen confidential legal documents and disappeared for 3 days. 3 days? I've been staying at the Marriott downtown. I have receipts." "That's good. We'll need those." He kept reading. "He's provided statements from your sister, your uncle, and..." His face darkened. "Someone named Dr. Patricia Hendricks." I felt sick. I've never heard of her. "According to this, you've been her patient for 6 months. She's diagnosed you with paranoid personality disorder and recommends immediate psychiatric evaluation." The room spun. They'd thought of everything. Not only had they forged a will and bribed witnesses, they'd created an entire medical history to make me look insane. "David, what are our chances?" He closed the laptop and looked at me directly. "Without additional evidence? 50-50. Maybe less. Trevor's a respected businessman, your sister's a nurse, and they've got a psychiatrist backing their claims. All we have is a will that was supposed to be sealed and your word against theirs." I thought about my grandmother's last days. How I'd been the only one to visit her regularly. How Trevor and Miranda had suddenly become attentive once she got sick, bringing flowers and staying for photos, but leaving when the real caregiving began. "There has to be more," I said. "People don't just fabricate medical records and forge legal documents without leaving a trail." "You're right, but finding it will take time we don't have." David checked his watch. "It's 4:30 p.m. The hearing's at 9 a.m. That gives us 16.5 hours. I stood up, pacing to the window. Outside, people were going about their normal lives, completely unaware that mine was crashing down around me. "What about the nursing home?" I asked suddenly. "Grandmother was at Sunset Manor for her last 2 weeks. They must have records of who visited, when, and for how long." David's eyes lit up. "That's good thinking. Medical facilities keep detailed visitor logs. And what about the neighbors?" "Mrs. Chen, no relation, lived next door to grandmother for 40 years. She knew everything that went on. Better and better. Anyone else?" I thought harder. "Grandmother's housekeeper, Rosa. She worked for her twice a week for 15 years. If anyone knew grandmother's real state of mind, it would be Rosa." David was already reaching for his phone. "I'm calling my investigator. We'll split up and gather as much as we can before morning." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Rosa Martinez's modest living room, watching her face change as I explained what had happened. "Those evil children," she said, her accent thick with anger. "Mrs. Margaret, she talked about this. She was so worried. Worried about what? Rosa disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a small photo album. She gave me these. Said if anything happened to her, if anyone tried to say she was crazy, I should show them. The album was filled with photos of grandmother and me at her birthday party last year, where she was sharp and engaged, Christmas dinner, where she'd beaten everyone at Scrabble, Easter, where she'd given a toast that made the whole family laugh. But it was the last page that made my breath catch. There were photos of Trevor and Miranda's visits, taken secretly from Rosa's angle behind the kitchen door. In every single one, they were searching through grandmother's belongings, opening drawers, rifling through papers, examining jewelry. She knew, Rosa whispered. She knew they were after her money. That's why she changed the will. You knew about the new will? I drove her to the lawyer's office. Mr. Hartwell, the young one, not the father. She made me promise to tell no one, but now, Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She said Trevor and Miranda only loved her money, but you loved her. I was crying too now. Did she seem confused to you? Mentally unstable? Rosa snorted. Mrs. Margaret was sharper than people half her age right until the end. She read 3 newspapers every morning and did crossword puzzles in pen. The last week, she kept saying, Rosa, they think I'm a fool, but I know what they're planning. I left Rosa's house with copies of the photos and her promise to testify. My phone rang as I got to my car. Bad news, David said. Sunset Manor's administrator is refusing to release visitor logs without a court order. Says it's protected patient information. What about Dr. Hendricks? That's the interesting part. She exists, and she does work in psychiatric evaluation, but her office says she's been on medical leave for the past 4 months. Stress-related breakdown. My stomach dropped. So she couldn't have been treating me. Exactly. Someone's been using her credentials. We need to find out who. I drove to Dr. Hendricks' office building, a sleek medical complex downtown. The directory showed her suite number, but when I got there, the office was dark. A cleaning lady was vacuuming the hallway. Excuse me, I called. Do you know anything about Dr. Hendricks? The woman stopped and looked at me suspiciously. You family? I'm trying to find out about some medical records. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. Poor woman, had a nervous breakdown after her husband died. Haven't seen her in months. She paused. But that other woman's been coming around. What other woman? Blonde lady? Real fancy clothes? Says she's Dr. Hendricks' partner, handling her patients while she's away. But I never seen her before the doctor got sick. My heart pounded. Can you describe her? Pretty, maybe 40. Drives a white BMW. Real bossy, always on her phone talking about moving patient files. It sounded like Miranda. I called David immediately. My sister's been impersonating Dr. Hendricks. The cleaning lady can identify her. Jesus, this keeps getting worse. But it's also getting better. For us, I mean. The more elaborate their conspiracy, the easier it is to unravel. What else did you find? Your uncle's finances are interesting. 3 years ago, right after your grandmother's funeral, he made a cash deposit of $350,000. Then your brother deposited $400,000, and your sister got $380,000. They split grandmother's liquid assets immediately. Looks like it. But here's the really interesting part. They used some of that money to pay a law firm called Morrison & Associates. Big retainer, $75,000, paid by your brother 2 months before your grandmother died. I felt pieces clicking into place. They planned this in advance. They hired lawyers to contest the will before she even died. It gets worse. Morrison & Associates specializes in elder law and will contests. They've been implicated in 3 similar cases over the past 5 years. Families claiming elderly relatives weren't competent, producing medical evidence that later proved questionable. Are you saying this is their specialty? Helping people steal inheritances? I'm saying your siblings found lawyers who know how to game the system. I spent the next 2 hours at Mrs. Chen's house, grandmother's elderly neighbor. She was eager to help once I explained the situation. Your grandmother was sharp as a tack, she insisted, serving me tea in delicate china cups. We played bridge every Tuesday right up until she went to the nursing home. She never missed a card or forgot whose turn it was. Mrs. Chen had also noticed Trevor and Miranda's increased visits in grandmother's final months. They'd park in the driveway and stay for hours, she said. Your grandmother would look exhausted after they left. One time I found her crying in her garden. She said they kept pressuring her to change her will, to be fair to everyone. Did she mention the new will to you? Mrs. Chen smiled. She said she'd found a way to make sure her money went to the right person, someone who loved her for herself, not what she could give them. As Mrs. Chen walked me to the door, she grabbed my arm. That boy of yours is trouble, she said firmly. Your grandmother knew it too. Last time I saw her, she said, Trevor thinks he's smarter than everyone, but he's about to learn otherwise. By midnight, David and I were back in his office, surrounded by documents, photos, and notes. We had enough evidence to prove the conspiracy, but the guardianship hearing was in 9 hours. Here's our strategy, David said. We go on the offensive. Instead of just defending against their claims, we expose the entire fraud, force them to answer questions they're not prepared for. What if the judge doesn't believe us? Then we demand a psychiatric evaluation for you. Any real doctor will confirm you're completely competent. Meanwhile, we'll have time to gather more evidence. I barely slept that night, going over every detail, every piece of evidence. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. It was Rosa. Mija, I remembered something important. Your grandmother, she recorded videos. What kind of videos? On her iPad. She said if anything happened to her, the videos would prove she was thinking clearly. She gave me the iPad to keep safe. I was already getting dressed. Rosa, this could save everything. Can you meet me at the courthouse? Sigh? I'll be there. At 8:30 a.m., I sat in the courthouse hallway with David, Rosa, Mrs. Chen, and the cleaning lady from Dr. Hendricks' building. On the other side, Trevor and Miranda sat with their attorney, a sharp-faced woman in an expensive suit. Trevor looked confident, almost smug. Miranda kept checking her phone. Neither of them had noticed Rosa, who was sitting quietly with her purse clutched tightly in her lap. "All rise!" the bailiff called. Judge Morrison, no relation to the law firm, was a stern-looking woman in her 60s. She reviewed the file while we waited. "This is a petition for emergency guardianship," she began. "Mr. Holloway, you claim your sister is mentally incompetent and poses a danger to herself?" Trevor's attorney stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Our client's sister has been exhibiting paranoid delusions since their grandmother's death. She's stolen confidential legal documents and has been making wild accusations against family members." "I see. And you have medical evidence of this mental instability?" "We do." The attorney handed over a thick file. "Dr. Patricia Hendricks has been treating the respondent for 6 months. Her evaluation clearly indicates paranoid personality disorder with potential for self-harm." Judge Morrison reviewed the documents. "These appear to be in order. Mr. Chen, what's your client's response?" David stood confidently. "Your Honor, we claim this entire petition is part of an elaborate fraud designed to cover up a massive theft. With your permission, we'd like to present evidence that the petitioners have stolen over $2 million from their grandmother's estate and are now trying to silence the only person who discovered their crime." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Those are serious allegations, Mr. Chen." "They are, Your Honor, and we have serious evidence." Trevor's attorney objected. "This is supposed to be a competency hearing, not a trial for—" "I'll allow it," Judge Morrison interrupted. "If fraud is involved, it directly impacts the credibility of the medical evidence." "Proceed, Mr. Chen." David opened with the original will, explaining how it differed from the probated version. He presented the visitor logs Rosa had helped us obtain from Sunset Manor, showing that I'd visited grandmother 43 times in her final months, while Trevor and Miranda had visited 6 times combined, and always together. Then he called Mrs. Chen to testify. "Mrs. Holloway was completely competent," she said firmly. "We played bridge every week. She managed her own finances, read voraciously, and could beat anyone at Scrabble. The only time she seemed confused was when her grandchildren pressured her about money." Trevor's attorney tried to discredit her. "Mrs. Chen, you're not a medical professional. How can you assess—" "I'm 87 years old," Mrs. Chen interrupted. "I know the difference between normal aging and mental incompetence. Margaret Holloway was sharp as a knife until the day she died." Next, David called the cleaning lady. "I seen the blonde woman pretending to be Dr. Hendricks," she testified. "Real pushy, always on her phone. Didn't act like no doctor I ever seen." Trevor's attorney stood. "Objection. This witness can't identify my client's sister." "Actually," David said, "she can." He gestured to Rosa, who stood and walked to the witness stand. "This woman," Rosa said, pointing directly at Miranda, "came to Mrs. Margaret's house many times in the last months. Always looking through things, always asking about money. Mrs. Margaret said she was like a vulture." Miranda's face went white, but our biggest revelation came when Rosa opened her purse and pulled out grandmother's iPad. "Mrs. Margaret, she made videos?" Rosa said. "She knew something was wrong. She told me, if anything happens to me, if anyone says I was crazy, show them these." David connected the iPad to a courtroom monitor. The first video was dated 8 months before grandmother's death. Grandmother appeared on screen, sitting in her favorite chair, looking directly at the camera. "Today is March 15th, 2023, she said clearly. "I am Margaret Elizabeth Holloway, and I am 79 years old. I am making this recording because I believe my grandchildren Trevor and Miranda are planning to steal my inheritance." The courtroom was dead silent. Grandmother continued, "They have been pressuring me to change my will, claiming it's unfair to leave everything to one grandchild. But I've watched them for years. They visit only when they need money. They've never shown genuine love or interest in my welfare. Only my granddaughter has cared for me without expectation of reward." David played 3 more videos, each dated months apart, each showing grandmother's mental clarity and growing concern about Trevor and Miranda's behavior. In the final video, recorded just 2 weeks before her death, grandmother held up legal documents. "I have changed my will," she said. "Everything will go to the grandchild who deserves it. I've hidden copies of the real will in case Trevor and Miranda try to contest it. Rosa knows where they are." Trevor jumped up. "This is ridiculous. She was clearly manipulated into—" "Sit down, Mr. Holloway," Judge Morrison said sharply. She turned to Trevor's attorney. "I'd like to speak with Dr. Hendricks about her evaluation." The attorney's confidence cracked. "Dr. Hendricks is unavailable due to medical leave. How convenient. And who conducted the evaluation in her place?" Silence. David stood. "Your Honor, we've discovered that Dr. Hendricks has been on medical leave for 4 months. She couldn't have evaluated my client. We believe someone impersonated her using stolen credentials." Judge Morrison's expression darkened. "Ms. Collins," she addressed Trevor's attorney, "did you verify your expert witness's availability before submitting her evaluation?" More silence. "Your Honor," David continued, "we have medical records showing that Dr. Hendricks has been receiving treatment for stress-related breakdowns since August. She hasn't seen patients in months." The judge turned to Miranda. "Ms. Holloway, do you have medical training?" Miranda looked terrified. "I'm a registered nurse. And did you have any contact with Dr. Hendricks regarding your sister's treatment?" I don't recall. Let me refresh your memory." David pulled out building security footage we'd obtained that morning. "This shows you entering Dr. Hendricks' office building 12 times over the past 3 months. The cleaning staff has identified you as someone who claimed to be handling Dr. Hendricks' patients." Miranda started crying. Trevor's attorney tried damage control. "Your Honor, Even if there are irregularities with the medical evaluation, that doesn't prove it proves fraud, Judge Morrison said coldly. Fraud in my courtroom, using forged medical documents to obtain guardianship. Ms. Collins, I suggest you advise your clients to remain silent until they consult with criminal attorneys. She turned to me. Ms. Holloway approached the bench. I stood on shaking legs. Young lady, based on everything I've heard today, you appear to be completely competent and rational. This petition for guardianship is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into potential fraud, forgery, and theft. She addressed the bailiff. Please ensure Mr. and Ms. Holloway remain available for questioning. As the gavel fell, Trevor lunged toward me. You have no idea what you've done, he hissed. This family is finished. No, I said calmly. The lying is finished. 3 hours later, I sat in Detective Rodriguez's office as she reviewed our evidence. This is one of the most elaborate inheritance frauds I've seen, she said. Forged wills, impersonated medical professionals, fabricated psychiatric evaluations. Your siblings are facing serious prison time. What happens now? We've frozen all their assets pending investigation. The DA's office is filing charges for fraud, forgery, theft, and conspiracy. We're also looking into Morrison and Associates. If they've done this before, we want to shut them down. That evening, I finally checked into a real hotel instead of hiding out. David called around 8 p.m. More good news, he said. We found the original will's backup copies exactly where your grandmother said they'd be, in her safety deposit box. The bank confirmed she was the only one with access. And the money? Most of it's still recoverable. They spent about $300,000 combined on houses and cars, but the bulk of the estate was in investments they couldn't liquidate quickly. 2 weeks later, I stood in grandmother's house, my house now, reading a letter she'd left with her attorney. My dearest granddaughter, it began. If you're reading this, it means my worst fears came true. Trevor and Miranda tried to steal what rightfully belongs to you, but I've spent months preparing for this possibility. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence you need to prove the truth has been carefully preserved. The letter continued. I've watched you care for me without expecting anything in return. You visited when you were tired, listened when I repeated the same stories, and held my hand when I was scared. That kind of love can't be bought or faked. Use this inheritance wisely. Travel, learn, help others. But most importantly, build a family of your own choosing. People who love you for who you are, not what you can give them. The letter was signed, All my love, Grandma Margaret. P.S. Trevor always was too smart for his own good. Miranda followed him like a sheep. I hope prison teaches them what real family means. 6 months later, Trevor was sentenced to 8 years for fraud and conspiracy. Miranda got 5 years for her cooperation in exposing Morrison and Associates. The law firm was disbanded, and 3 of their partners faced federal charges. I used part of the inheritance to establish a foundation helping elderly people protect themselves from financial abuse. The rest went toward a master's degree in social work, and a small house near the lake where grandmother and I used to fish. Sometimes I still can't believe it's real. That justice actually prevailed, that the truth came out. But then I remember grandmother's words. Trevor thinks he's smarter than everyone, but he's about to learn otherwise. She was right. She always was. The only thing I regret is that she didn't live to see it.